Hello, I'm Carole Sawo. I'm often asked, how is it that in one moment I can teach something very academic and sciencey, like forensic psychology and psychoanalysis, and then in the next moment teach something very philosophical, such as spirituality? Surely those two different things, two different disciplines, don't come together, don't marry. There's no way of connecting the two for most people. I find when I'm talking to scientists, they have a very academic mind. So the scientific mind typically likes everything to be logical and observable and linear and practical, and it can be replicated. That is one of the requirements for anything to be a science, is that it can be studied and replicated. Go all the way across to spirituality, and obviously we can't always replicate that. People have stories of spiritual experiences that to the scientists sound very airy-fairy and la-la land. I've studied a lot of disciplines, from practical science in psychology and then all the way across through religions into philosophy and spirituality. So maybe I'm an unusual teacher, I'm told that I am, because I don't teach within one discipline, I teach across the disciplines. And it's my pleasure to do that, because I think on some level people have a curiosity and an understanding, even if they don't understand the language that I'm using at that particular time. They seem to be able to resonate with some of the things that I'm saying. My perspective is one in which I've managed to find a common language. So that is how you get two apparently opposing things to come together. You have to find a commonality. And the common language that I perceive is frequency and energy based. So I believe that everything in the universe vibrates at a certain frequency. To some scientists, they'll say, well, this in a certain amount of fashion is known. But I actually believe that we as humans vibrate at different frequencies, depending on our knowledge base and the experiences that we've had throughout our life. So some things I'm teaching, for some people this is completely new and foreign to them, and I get the normal reactions, the defence mechanisms come up. I've been called all sorts of things, weird, crazy. But then on the other end of the comments that I get, some people that have followed a similar path through studying, such as my own, resonate with what I'm saying. The language that I'm giving you is one of frequency and energy. So I believe that everything that we experience, we want to be able to comprehend it, to file it away in our mind in a nice little orderly fashion. Well, I can tell you that some people do have very spiritual experiences, and for somebody with a scientific mind that might have a very weird and bizarre experience, their ego, if it's very centred in science, is going to really struggle to comprehend that experience and come to terms with it. It can really make somebody's very scientific mind wobble if they have something like a spiritual experience. And there's plenty of documentation. People in the business world have had experiences that they can't come to terms with. The next thing that happens to the science mind is that their ego will want to go about understanding what happened there. Now, this is a common thing for the scientific mind to need to know, but I can tell you, if I put my psychoanalyst's head on, is that things happen in our world that we are never going to understand as long as we are incarnate in the human capacity. Our brains are really fantastic at understanding a lot of different things, but there's a limit to our capacity where we have to, I often teach my students, create a file in your mind and label it, I don't know what happened there. And then anything that's way bizarre that happens to you, you just file in that little folder, and as you go through your life you might find answers to those particular questions, but you might never find an answer. Life is not as predictable as we might like to have it. Things come from the left field. Given 3 traumatic experiences, even a strong scientific mind can wobble and go down on its knees. And so my point is to say, if you're somebody with a very academic, sciencey mind, don't dismiss the world of spiritual inquiry, because although there are a lot of different ways of looking at something like spirituality, essentially it's an individual experience. All the other religions and disciplines that you might go on to read about, they are really essentially group practices. There's normally a book, somebody's gone ahead many years ago and set down the text, the scripture and the doctrine that everybody else follows behind. In spirituality, it's an individual experience. And where, for me, where all of these things marry is where they begin, which is in our mind. And so if we're trying to make sense of our world in the language of academia and science, then we will only use that language. Alternatively, if we only try and understand our human experiences in terms of spirituality, then we might miss out on some practicalities that could nicely balance us. We need to be somewhere in the middle there. The Buddhists already know this, that the best path to walk through life is the one right through the middle, where you don't go too high, you don't go too low, you stay on centre as much as you possibly can. I honestly believe that we are essentially all studying the same thing, but we're using different languages to do that in. Now this might sound a bit bizarre to some of you, so I'm just going to leave that particular comment there where I've just made it. But the point is that life is about many experiences, some that we will go ahead and look for, but others that just come from the left field. We have to be able to somehow marry all of these experiences in our mind. It is possible to unify the opposites. I perceive it easily now, and that's how I teach it, very easily, and using different people's languages to talk about the same thing. The ultimate language is nature, and so if you're ever unsure about something, you're looking for an answer, then I would tell you to look right into nature and study nature, and you will understand us a lot better. Where does it all come together? It comes together in your mind.